So, and the Dutch, I'll show you later in the next photograph, the Dutch battalion had their sleeping quarters, units, living units where they lived. It was in this field here. So the entire area here was actually available for the refugees to come inside the base. So that's the situation from another angle. You have the Dutch battalion living quarters here, installed in this area, and this entire space was available for the refugees, but the Dutch decided not to allow them to come inside. The next day, 12 July, so Srebrenica fell on 11 July, people came to Potocari on 11 July afternoon and evening. They spent the night in Potocari, and the next day, around 9 a.m., the Serbs come from Bratunac with tanks and infantry, and they come from Srebrenica, so from two main directions. You can see now what happens. Those 20,000 people who were outside of the base and they were not allowed to come inside the base were completely exposed to the Serbs. The Dutch created this buffer zone here between the base and the area outside. Of course, the Serbs simply came through the checkpoint from both directions and they mixed up with the people. And that's, of course, when the horror started for those people. They started killing people on the spot, separating them. I mean, this horror lasted for hours and days afterwards. This picture only shows how these factory buildings looked where those 20,000 people stayed. Some of them were killed inside the buildings, some of them behind some of these houses. The tribunal in The Hague actually, in their investigations, determined so many facts about the events in Potocari, about the killing conducted by the Serbs. So this is just another illustration which shows how these two black arrows, of course, show how these units coming from Srebrenica and one coming from Bratunac met here, and the people were completely exposed. However, it should be also noted that people who were inside the base were absolutely safe. I mean, the word absolutely is, of course, maybe not appropriate, but in the context of Potocari situation, 12 July 95, those people who were inside the base were safe because the Serbs did not violate the space of the Dutch battalion base. And that's exactly where we wanted to stay. Of course, I was inside with my family, 5,000–6,000 people. Approximately 500 men and boys were inside the base, and they were the main target for the Serbs. We wanted to stay inside. We did not want to go anywhere out of the base. So I have assembled a number of documents, of course copies of original documents. This is one of those documents concerning 12 and 13 July. I'm talking now about 12 and 13 July still on the photographs. This is an authentic document created by Yasushi Akashi, who was the Japanese diplomat sitting in Zagreb, and he was communicated directly to New York, UN headquarters in New York, and he was actually the highest official of United Nations in former Yugoslavia. So his responsibility was to draft reports every day and send them to New York. So you can see now that he created one document on 13 July 95. And here you can see one part of the document. This is what he writes, Akashi. We believe there are about 4,000 males of draft age still in Bratunac awaiting screening by the Bosnian Serb army. Their fate is of obvious concern to everyone here. Well, this is the only thing that the UN ever did for the people, this single sentence. But this sentence is important because it means that the UN, at least Akashi sitting in Zagreb and New York, after New York received this report of Akashi, knew that 4,000, which is half of the number of the people killed in Srebrenica, okay, 4,000 males were in Bratunac, okay. And we'll now see, this is Bratunac, here is Potocari right here. So it's very close. It's about 2 to 3 kilometers. So these men and boys who were separated in Bratunac from their families were taken by buses, actually, yes, and then put on the soccer field or football stadium. And this is what Akashi is referring to. Akashi is referring to this location. And he said there is 4,000 people there. To this date, the Dutch claim, who were physically present in the area, that they did not know that the Serbs were putting people on the soccer field. They say, we didn't see that. Okay. And what I'm showing on this picture is the route which the buses with women and children and also Dutch, the route that the Dutch took during those 2 days with their vehicles as well. So it was, in my opinion, impossible not to see 4,000 people being imprisoned in Bratunac on the soccer field. This is the same thing except for that it shows the picture from a different angle. And what is this one? Jedan. I'll do it without microphone. Okay. So here is the hotel where the Dutch battalion commander met with General Mladic. Some of you probably saw it on TV. It was shown on TV many times when Mladic meets the colonel of the Dutch battalion, Karemans. It was here, and this is the place where Mladic was holding 4,000 people, men and boys, who were all later killed. So, when the Serbs finished the separation and deportation outside of the base, all of the men and the boys were separated and taken to Bratunac soccer field or other locations. And when women and children were taken by buses, by the Serb buses, to another location on the front line where they were basically handed over to the Federation authorities, the Bosnian authorities, the Dutch decided on 13 July to expel 6,000 people who were on their base. So this is how it looked. The building with people, the dotted line shows the space which was inside. You get out of this building, and then when you come to this point, there was a path, a kind of a path created by the Dutch battalion. From that point to the main gate, the path was created in such a way that the Dutch used 2 plastic tapes, 1 meter apart from each other. They put them on some kind of poles, wooden or metal poles, and they stretched those tapes from there to the main gate. The Serbs were waiting here, the Serb soldiers, and the Dutch soldiers were standing together with the Serbs. The Dutch knew Serbs were killing people already. They were separating men and boys from women and children, but the Dutch ordered all of the refugees inside the base to get out without giving them any alternative at all. And this lasted for several hours in the afternoon of 13 July. My family was among the last ones to leave the base because that's what I tried to do. I tried to keep my family inside the base. However, later they were also expelled. So I will explain one more thing. I'm almost finished with the presentation, so you can ask questions. The soldiers, the Dutch soldiers who were outside of the base, because they were also present outside of the base, together with the Serbs, for some reason decided to wear shorts, t-shirts, and baseball hats, blue color, with UN sign on it, no weapons, and no flak jackets, no uniforms.